welcome to yet another episode of the Newsroom. And as we close this month of March, the Women's Month, I'm privileged to host a seasoned veteran journalist. She has over 24 years of experience. Please, I am excited to welcome this person on the show because they have a lot to unpack. And as upcoming journalists, young journalists, present journalists, the ones who are already in the field, the ones who are working in the newsrooms, and the media owners, I hope that you join in on this conversation because, trust me, it is going to be so insightful. My name is Laura Nalugwa, and I'm pleased to welcome this guest on the show. Help me in welcoming Linda Kibombo, well known as Linda Kibombo, but also her full name is Linda Sharon Navoga Kibombo. We are going to find out why she decided to make this name short. Linda, you're welcome to the show.
Thank
you're
you
welcome
so
to
much.
Ukweli Africa, and this is the Newsroom. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you, Laura.
Thank you for making the time to come and join us. We are talking journalist safety, journalist mental health, and so many other things that surround the journalists and the newsroom as well. So Linda, as a person who has been in this field for over 24 years, there's a lot to tell. But I want us to summarize and take us back a bit, like about 14 years ago. Where was Linda?
14 years ago, I think I was in my 10th year at Sanyu FM because I spent 12 years at Sanyu FM and I was doing radio. And I was kind of getting tired and I wanted something bigger, something more exciting, something more intriguing. And I felt I was kind of tired. And so I was looking around.
So how did you transition from radio to TV? Most times we see people transitioning from TV to radio. For you, you did the other way around. So how was that journey? How did you transit?
It wasn't a very difficult one because NTV actually came looking for me. Yeah, they came looking for me. And I'll be honest with you, in my life, I have only applied for one job. In the other jobs, they've always actually come looking for me. But NTV came looking for me, and Mr. Maurice Mugisha, I met him, and he said that they needed an English producer for the English news, NTV Tonight. And I said I was open to that because I'm actually looking for something like that. Like I said, I wanted something more exciting. And not only that, I had made up my mind one day because I had tried to work at NBS, but that didn't work out. And I had made up my mind that then if I can't do NBS, then I'm going to do NTV. And look how God opens that door.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How was the feeling?
Yes, I was excited. Of course, I did the interviews and they went really well. And I wasn't told immediately that I had gotten the job until I met Maurice somewhere. And I said, Maurice, what is happening? This is about 9 months later.
No.
Yes, and then he told me, oh, you, please come in tomorrow. Please come in tomorrow. And so when I went in, I got the job. And I was given, at my former job, because I was the chief news editor at Sanyu FM, I had to give a 3-month notice. And NTV was very open to it. On the day that I joined NTV now, physically, like actually going to work, I was very overwhelmed. You know, as you grow older, for people like us, let me talk about myself. I find it very difficult to meet new people, introduce myself. So I was kind of overwhelmed. And I felt that I was getting into a territory where there were already celebs. You know, I was looking at people like the Josephine Karunji, the Rukshana, and then I was also looking at Florence Naluyimba. I was looking at people like that, Gertrude Witware, Sodilbia Ruhanga, Maurice Mugisha.
Where am I?
Exactly. But I remember that day I drove to the office by 5:45 a.m. I was there, very excited. And I remember meeting Agi Konde, who was the managing director then, and she welcomed me. She really liked me. And she took me into the newsroom and they introduced me to the newsroom. The first day, I was very shocked. At Sanyu, there was free will. You know, we worked in shifts. But here, it gets to 5 o'clock, I'm seeing work is just beginning. I told the lady who was sitting next to me, she was, Patricia, when do we go home? She said, work is just starting now, you leave at 10. That thing, I don't know what to say. It shook me. It was really bad. It shook me. It shook me. So I did 10 years of working NTV tonight until I decided, you know what, let me call this a day. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm growing older. No.
So, Linda, I want you to take me into your time in the newsroom. Now you've joined the newsroom already, but 10 years in the newsroom.
You're talking NTV newsroom?
Yes, in the NTV newsroom.
Yeah.
What was it like? First of all, as a woman, as a female now journalist, what was it like?
One thing that I have noticed over the years is that women, this is my experience I'm talking about, is that women don't spend as long a time in the newsroom as men. Because one, you're going to find young women there who are in their childbearing years, who are in their years of getting married and starting a family. And you're going to find that we, who had our children early, will be there, but our minds are always going to be on the women. And so in my experience, yes, I experienced a few of these ladies. They came in, but they went. They came in and they went. And even in my editor position, by the time I left, I think I was working with 6 men. If I'm talking NTV, I was working with 6 men, and I was the only woman there. And at a certain time, of course, you would feel like your voice is being drowned out. And even at a certain time, they kept telling us that our news was testosterone filled. Because if you looked at the women in the newsroom, you would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The rest, like 30, 40 people, all of them are men. And you know that when a man goes to do a story, he will not give it the female touch. Women have a special touch to a story. So it wouldn't have the female touch. And even the topics that men are interested in, issues of politics, issues of sports issues, those are the tough things. So you're going to find that women would go mainly for health and education because those are softer topics. But I realized also that, yeah, people stay, but they get to a certain point, especially the women, and they leave. They leave because they go for jobs that will allow them to have their children, but will allow them to also be with their children. I remember a story that Gertrude Witware did. She had to go all the way to Kamuli. She had just had her baby. You understand? So you imagine Kamuli, you can't spend the night because you have a child who's suckling, you know, a child who's still breastfeeding. So I think women feel limited. If you find a woman who has stayed in the newsroom as long as I have, give them their kudos. Give them their kudos. Yeah.
Where do we go from here in situations where women have come because they want to work, because now this is a challenge? How do we address this challenge to find the balance? Not for women to be in a newsroom and then they are seen as disposables. At any time now, Laura will be out. Give her 2-3 years. She'll be pregnant, she'll go. Now that she's married, she'll go. Where do we go from here? How do we balance this?
With the way I was brought up, I never want to put myself in a special place. I have 4 sisters. And what a man can do is something we can do. I can change the bulb. I can change the tire on my car. I can try, you know, and do those kinds of things. And so that is the same kind of mantra that I take into the newsroom. As a woman, don't say I'm going to go for the softer stories. I worked with a lady who was called Sheila Nduhuchire. She was one of the bravest women that I've ever met. Sheila went to places even a man would not go. And it's not to say she wasn't female, but she did not put herself in a box and say, oh, I'm going to do the softer stories. These are the press conferences. If it's a women's issue, it's me who's sent there. No. By the way, why wouldn't a man go and cover a women's whatever? So, yes, I always encourage, especially people who have come into the newsroom, please don't put yourself in a box. If it's traveling up country and you can actually do the up country, if it's traveling for campaigns, do the campaigns. You're a journalist. You're not a female journalist. You're a journalist at the start, end of the day. Yes.
So you've talked about campaigns. And as Ukweli Africa, we advocate for journalist safety. Usually in campaign trails, we see a lot of violence against journalists. They are there to tell a story. And before you know it, they've become the story. As a person who has been editing stories for a very long time, how do we go from us, the journalists, becoming the story, from going to tell the story?
I think journalist safety starts with you as a person. It actually starts with you. I worked with I'm going to refer a lot to people that I worked with, people who had an impact on me. I worked with a gentleman called William Scato. And William Scato, I remember him telling me a number of things when I had just joined the newsroom. But two of the things I really got, make a decision, stand by it, that's the first one. But number two, no story is worth your life. Now, let me sing songs of praise for NTV or Nation Media Group, because that was one media house that really minded about people's safety. It told you about your personal safety. It told you that if you felt that you were not comfortable going into a certain situation, speak up. Because you'll die today and then tomorrow, people will bring flowers to your grave, they'll take money to your mother, they'll buy you a box in which you'll be buried. Two, we had what is called their handbooks. There was an HR handbook, there was an editorial policy handbook. Now, people don't read and people take those things for granted, but those things are actually there to save you. Safety sometimes might not just be your physical safety that is threatened. It could be your emotional safety. It could be practically anything. Another thing is when people were going on the campaign trail, first and foremost, we used to have somebody who could actually, from a security company, they come into the newsroom, they sit down with you, they tell you about if you're to use a safety vest, if you're to wear the protective helmet. They would even speak to the drivers to keep their cars running all the time. You must be parked in a strategic place. Keep your car running. In case there is any form of violence that breaks out, run to the car is on, go. But when I go back to the issues of personal safety, I have worked with people who have felt that their safety has been threatened. And I remember William Scato calling those people on a daily basis and saying, I saw what happened today. It was rather fiery. Do you want me to withdraw you? Can I withdraw you? Now, on top of being given all the safety vests and the safety gear and whatever it is, and being warned about where they stayed, because one, you have very expensive equipment, you're not expected to stay in a place of 30K. So safety also went into the kinds of allowances that they were given in the field. One, for their food, so that they don't have to be picking food from people, because anything can happen to you, your NTV. Two, when you go into a place, you first talk to the LC chairperson or the police so that they actually know that you're in the area. Three, you must look all around you and just see if you feel that you are unsafe. There was fuel in the car. Drive into the next town. Go and spend the night there. Wear your safety vest, your helmet all the time. When you're sleeping at night, don't sleep. Issues of drinking, all that, we were told all those things. So when you go out, it's not just about wearing that vest and the protective helmet. No, it is about a whole load of things. It's a whole list of things that they're given. Yes.
Linda, you had a privilege to be part of a team that was going all out for their journalists. I'm a freelance journalist. I have not had this opportunity. I'm out in the field. But I want my story to air on NTV, on NBS, on whichever media house or TV station or radio station. Advise that journalist.
Of course, when you say freelance, and my heart goes out to all those freelancers, because I have seen somebody who has lost his eye. I think you guys even spoke to him.
Yes.
but he's lost his eye, and I asked myself, how much is he earning for him to be able to afford medical treatment? Like I said, personal safety is first. Is that story worth your life? Is it actually worth your life? Because if you're going to go and get killed, if you're going to go and lose an arm or a leg or whatever it is, or your very expensive equipment, then what happens? I'm not saying don't go out into the field, but try your best if you're freelance. By the way, freelance doesn't mean that you don't have money. Freelance might mean that you start to plan and say to yourself, when I get money, I'm collecting for the safety jacket. When I get money, I'm collecting for my helmet. When I get money, I'm collecting for very good equipment so that even if a policeman kicks it, it's not going to break. Go out into the field and go and do your story. However, we find that many of our freelancers, when we say freelance, might not have that much money because journalists are not very well paid and we will never be very well paid. But personal safety is something that you need to put at the... Is this story worth doing? If it's not worth doing, I'm not going.
Linda, why you say journalists will never be well paid? Have you given up because of the time that you spent in the media? Have you given up and said, you know what, I guess this is what it is? Should we keep on hoping that maybe one day somebody will realize that journalists are worth it and they deserve a certain amount of money or wage also? Most of the media houses don't offer medical insurance to journalists.
Yes.
Why is that?
Let me first go back to when I started out as a journalist at Radio Uganda, I was being paid 30,000 shillings per story, which was, I was paid 30,000 shillings for the number of stories that I did, not per story. And these were more than 10. But I felt it was a lot of money. That was in the year 2000. I have been privileged to work. One, I have always been paid my salary at the end of the month. I've never gone without a salary. But I actually felt that by the time I left, the amount of work I was putting in and at my level and with my experience, I wasn't earning enough. And at that time, my boys had started working. And they said, Mom, when they looked at my pay, is this what you're earning? Do you understand? For you who spends a whole day at work, you're not doing anything else. Of course, I had my hassles and whatever it is. But why I'm telling you this is I have spoken to journalists, even today, who earn 2,000 shillings per story, minus lunch, minus transport that is going to take you to do that story. That is why you're going to find that many journalists depend on handouts, which I find is a form of corruption when somebody starts telling you how they are going to give you 10,000 shillings and the story must run and it must be on the front page, and they start asking you for a report and calling your editor and everything. That's why you see it's never going to stop. It's just a it's a cycle. It's like you're in a basket and you're just moving round and round and round and round. But I also, when I speak about that, I don't know, but I feel, maybe I don't know about it, but I feel that there is no strong body that is actually advocating for this. Media house, can you pay these people more? But then again, also you find that that media house is depending on commercials and advertisement, which is not coming in. And then you also find that there's a lot of competition from the internet. You understand? So people are taking their advertisements somewhere else. They're not bringing them to the media houses. We had COVID. COVID also hampered a lot. So even if we would have campaigned for better salaries for, the lower reporters and journalists, I think that it was just scuttled. That whole idea was scuttled. So journalists, I'm not saying that I don't have hope. Maybe one day when my grandchildren have grown, I don't know. But we need to form strong organizations that can actually advocate for better pay. I think I saw somewhere in Australia Broadcasting Corporation, they've just been on strike for a whole day. It's issues about pay. That is Australia. Australians are being paid 100 more times more better than us, But we need to form strong bodies and actually advocate for a better situation for us.
Linda, you're speaking of we need a body that stands and advocates for pay, for good pay, for reasonable pay for journalists. You're part of the Editors Guild. of Uganda.
Yeah.
At the Editors Guild, what are you pushing for? Can't we have that on your agenda as well, to have, not for you to just cater for the editors, but to also have this on your mandate or your agenda, that while we are doing our work as editors, can we push for good pay for journalists? Because if the journalist doesn't bring a story to the editor, there's no story, right?
Exactly.
There's no job.
Yeah. So
Can't the Editors Guild of Uganda push for this?
I know that they can. Of course, they're involved in very many different programs, and the Editors Guild would push for it. But this is the Editors Guild. Then you're going to find I'm just going to talk about other associations that I've heard of, whether on paper or not. You find that there's the Court Reporters Association. Then I think we had UJA, which is the Uganda Journalists Association. At one time we had NIJU. We need a body that unites all of us, so that it is not just a small section of people who are yapping, as the people in power will call it, but we need a collective body, which would have been the Uganda Journalists Association, that says, you know what, people from Gulu, people from Arua, people from Mbale, people from Kapchora, all journalists actually meet. But I think it has actually been overrun by politics. And even by the time I left, I just felt we had no unity. I'm not going to tell you, I remember we tried to start up the Editors Guild a long time ago, when even Semu Junganda, who's an MP, I remember going to Nairobi with him. And we tried to set up a body we were looking at how the Kenyans are so united. And I can tell you, under Daniel Kalinachi, he's our president, we've come a very long way. But I can tell you that, yes, we can make noise, but it is just going to be some noise. We need to come together. I don't know why we failed. That one, I cannot answer that. I can't.
So, Linda, we talked about journalist pay. I want you to also talk about insurance.
So the medical insurance.
Generally, insurance for journalists. Most media houses don't have that avenue. If it is there, it is for particular people. The journalists are sort of discriminated out of it. Why do you think it's like that?
And yet it's very important. It really is important. Because another thing that I really feel is, like I said, I worked at NTV, all that was there. At one point I even had medical insurance for my 2 boys until they got to university. We find other journalists there, the ones who are on staff, also have it. But then again, you also find others who are not, but there's an arrangement that is made for them. Now, like I told you, many media houses, if I don't even get a salary at the end of the day, where will we start yapping about medical insurance? That is noise. But again, it's very important. If I could afford it, I would have done a cover for me. But then again, also, I would really, let's say you go to a media house and you have a card or identity card or whatever it is. Those are things that you need to discuss as you're doing an interview. Is there medical insurance for me? Will there be? Let's say I'm hurt. Will you be able to ask for maybe, I think it's called a workers' something compensation, where you're injured in line of duty, you know, or if you're coming to work or if you're leaving or whatever it is. But do people know about that? Do we know about our rights? I remember my son telling me, he's a lawyer, he was telling me about the Employment Act. And he was telling me about, Mom, if you want to resign, this is what happens to you. So do we read about these things? Are we that knowledgeable? I'm not saying we are not, but do we? So if I'm going somewhere and I'm being sent to the field and there is no assurance of medical insurance, will I go if I'm going into a war zone? You understand? But I urge media houses to make it important. By the time you open up a media house, think about all that. Don't just open up a media house because, you're someone who is in the government and you want it to be your mouthpiece during campaign time or when you want to attack a certain rival. Think about that. Think about the people who are working for you. Please know that they have families. Please know that if you don't pay them or if they don't have medical insurance or breakfast or a cup of tea in the morning, they're not going to be motivated to work. They're just going to bring you half-baked work. You understand? Yeah.
Linda, talking about all these we just hinted on it a little bit about the election trails and campaigns. But I want us to dive deeper into mental health for journalists. I've gone to the field and I've been beaten. When I come back, most times, most of them that I've spoken to are giving testimonies of, or they're telling stories of, you have to pick yourself up. There is no mental space. There are no mental safe spaces, avenues that a journalist can go to and sort of vent and sort of pour this out. But we shall come back to the newsroom and just mama about it. Hey, you went there. Oh, they beat you. Oh, that's life. And tomorrow we are expected on the desk to do another story. How do we advocate for safe spaces for journalists in as regards to their mental health? Because they see a lot.
And I do appreciate that question because it's very important. Actually, the meeting that I've just been at with the Editors Guild, where we were even talking about refugees, we also we touched on the issue of mental health for journalists, which many of us take for granted. When a journalist sees things that they see in the field, let me just give an example of people I've spoken to. I have been privileged as well to where I used to sit at NTV, that people used to come to me, one, to vent, but to actually tell me what they were going through. And I'll tell you truthfully, it was not the women, it was the men. Because these young men or our menfolk are actually struggling with some of the things that they see. And like you rightly said, they come back from the field. The minute they reach it is like the editor says, "Tulompe story yange," because they are working on a deadline. And so they get whatever they've gotten and they just pack it somewhere else. But I think what happens is, you see now with the medical insurance, you can always talk to a counselor because that is provided for. Now this is for the more privileged media houses. Number two, I would imagine, like now, for example, if I was talking about a media body, that media body would have been able to offer a place where these people could speak. But two, it could also be able to offer a place where people feel free. It could even be a drink up, or it could be 1 month a week, one week a month. We are going to be talking about issues to do with mental health, just for people to be able to open up. Now, Laura, one thing that you might not imagine is this, is that even somebody who is interviewing another person, and they're sitting in the safety of the studio, and they're listening to all these harrowing tales, also go through their own mental health issues, because they've listened, and with all this empathy that is going on, they feel that they need help. But where is the help going to come from? But I would encourage people talking to each other. I would encourage that every newsroom has that one person where somebody can actually go and vent. I would also encourage that when journalists come from the field, or even editors who are sitting at their desks, that there is someone who they can talk to. That I'm lucky that I had a manager like Maurice Mugisha or Williams Kato, who you would actually talk to, and we would vent. But even these other young people would come to me. There was a person who I spoke to. I'll mention his name here because I was so touched by his story. Cliff Wamala covered 2021 campaign for Bobby Wine, Robert Chagulanyi. And there was so much violence. And I remember Williams calling him every day, him and Mivule, "You guys, are you okay, or should I bring you back?" And even when Cliff came back, he told me that he continued to feel that he was being followed. It was that bad. So every morning he would wake up, and it would be like he would wear a cloak and be like, "You know what, today I'm going for the campaign. Oba I'm fe. I come back, I'm okay." Next morning it's the same thing. But it affected him when he came back. And even right after that, he was sent to something. I think Bobby Wine was going to present a petition to one of the UN agencies somewhere, and he was beaten. That thing affected him so badly. But it also affected so many other journalists. And what happened then is that I think they were taken to see a counselor, but they were also given time off from work. Now you find that many journalists cannot even take time off from work. Can we consider that? But a story is not worth your life. Nation Media Group withdrew their journalists from the campaign trail when they were beaten during the Kawempe North by-election. Best thing to do. No story is worth your life.
At all. So, Linda, where should media houses go, like from here, from now that we are talking all these things, mental health, safe spaces? How do we move from where we are to creating such spaces for journalists?
Of course, I've never had the advantage of being up there, but in the newsroom I have. But I really think, like I said, when you're setting up a media house, like what is your agenda at the end of the day? And the people who are going to work with you or who are going to work for you, are they happy? Yeah, you might not be in the business of making people happy, but do you care for their well-being in terms of salary? Like I told you, something as basic as giving them tea in the morning with a spoon of sugar. You don't have to give them a snack, they can buy their own snacks. I think we need to start with the basics. Can I afford to pay them first and foremost? 2, can I afford to at least feed them, to motivate them a little bit? 3, is there a bonus at the end of the year? 4, can we give them a bit of party for them to feel that they are part of the organization? You understand? But 4, can media houses also join in advocating for, can we join a big body? Like, can we unite journalism in this country? You know, let's not leave it to individuals to do this work. Media houses need to have a proper agenda while they are setting up these media houses. It's not just to make money or to yap around, no. But we need to have a proper agenda even for the people who are going to be working with us.
Linda, there is a big elephant in newsrooms. This big white elephant is called sexual harassment. Girls, young boys have left newsrooms, have left journalism because of sexual harassment. Some never want to return. They come full of passion for this profession. And they get there, and there's that beast looking at them. And most media houses, most of the predators in the media houses do not want to apprehend these predators because they bring, quote unquote, good PR. Have you, in your time as an editor, have you faced such stories? Have you interfaced with such stories? Are there testimonies of somebody being reprimanded for such cases of sexual harassment?
The beast is big. That beast is huge. I've witnessed. I have experienced myself, and I experienced it when I was really young, where an editor tried to put his lips on me in the night. That was one. But 2, I have also seen young people go through it. Now, there are certain things, unless you actually have evidence, there are actually some media houses that have, like I said, policies against those sorts of things. You can actually be sacked. You can be taken to the disciplinary committee. If somebody can actually prove, you understand, that they were sexually harassed. For the young people, especially the ladies, because me, I used to feel that that's where I could help, is I always go back to personal responsibility. What has brought you? There are certain things you're not going to be able to ward off. Let me tell you, I might be dressed the way I'm dressed. You see me? I'm not dressed like these young ladies, but I might be dressed the way I'm dressed and someone hits on me. They know I'm married, I have a ring on my finger. But not only that, they bring in these unwanted advances that I don't want to be party to. How do you deal with issues like that? Do you understand? But 2, what brought you? You came to work. People are going to hit on you. Expect it. By the way, it doesn't only happen in media houses. It happens in so many places. But I have witnessed, and the one that really irritated me so much was we were in a meeting that was a whole general meeting, and there's this young lady with big hair. And there was this guy behind her, a journalist, and he was touching, and she kept moving like this. She kept moving, like she couldn't move her chair because there was someone in front of her. Hey, I wanted to get up and tell that man, take your hands out of that girl's hair. But after that meeting, I told her, be careful about that man. Luckily, she was one of these nice, humble, young. I could just tell that guy was just bullying her. But that is sexual harassment. Don't touch me. Don't say bad words to me. Don't do eyes to me winking, hold my hand. There's something men do, women, calling me pet names, come and let's have breakfast together. There's socializing, but there's a very thin line there. Exactly. So you need to know who you are. You need to know what has brought you to that media house. Once you do that, you earn their respect. You earn their respect. They will not go there, however attractive or unattractive you are. Yes.
Advise young journalists or even people who are already in the profession, because you talked about proving. It is something that sometimes is very hard to prove that I was harassed by so and so. How do we do that? How do we prove? I have a case, and I've gathered that all the might in me to go, because it's also not something easy to go and talk about.
Yeah.
Because most people will find it shameful. How would you say that somebody did this to you?
Yeah.
Where do I get the proof from? How do I show it as evidence that this person did this to me really, and it did not go down well with me?
I think there's a number of ways that you can do it. Of course, for me, I felt that you need to have somebody, especially someone older, or actually someone who you can trust, someone who you can actually go and tell, someone who you can confide in, so that the first time it happens, okay, it might have happened. By the way, I'll tell you truthfully, it makes you feel dirty. It does. It makes you feel dirty. But is there someone I can confide in? That's the first thing. 2, if it happens again, is there someone I can confide in? Now, I'm not going to say that every house has an HR policy that actually deals with it. But if there's an HR person, there's nothing really hard with going to that HR person and saying, I feel that this person is making my life uncomfortable. But remember, you've also talked to someone else. If it gets too bad, record that person. Record what they're saying. Record a video of them. You understand? But again, tell that person. Tell them off. You know, we fear to speak to authority. And there's a lot of fear, because you're saying to yourself, once I speak to authority, because it might actually be the authority that is actually harassing you. Speak to them and tell them. So we fear because we think we're going to lose our jobs. Speak to that authority. If you're losing your job, lose your job. I left Radio Uganda at that time. I said to myself, this man, and I even see him these days. I see him somewhere talking, this. And in my mind, I was like, you used to pray on younger. You prayed on me. You prayed on me.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I recovered from it. Now I'm the one who advises young people. I am. I don't like it. I'll tell you, if I can get different fora to speak at, I will always tell these people. Personal responsibility. But you also have to be, what is the word? You have to be a person who can speak up for yourself. I don't like the way you touch me. I don't like those pet names that you tell me. And I don't like you speaking to me like that. Have some respect for yourself and have some respect for me. I'll tell you that will work wonders for you. It will. That person will give up. Yes. I came here to work. I didn't come here to fool around. Because this person who's hitting on you might even be a married man. I've seen them. Hey, most times. There's a time, I think, when I was still at Sanyu, someone came at me. And someone told me, hey, you're here, you're the one telling these people this, because you're old. I was like, it doesn't matter. You will not take them to bars because they came here to work. You understand? I've been through it. I know how bad it feels. It was also feeling bad for someone else, but she couldn't speak up for herself.
That's true. That's true. So, Linda, thank you so much for joining us today. And I would like you to give your closing remarks in as regards to safety of journalists, in as regards to mental health and mental well-being of journalists, and as regards to protection of journalists.
So, from the time I joined, like I said, about 24 years ago, very young, very naive, a lot of things have changed. But there are certain things that remain basic. If you talk about the issue of mental health, it is something that more people are opening up about today. If you feel that your life is threatened, especially with your safety, step back. If you feel somewhere that your mental health is just going down the drain, do something about it. You know, protect yourself as a person. don't be there and suffer through doing your job, and then you're going to have to regret later. Like I said, so many things have changed, but there are certain basics that remain, and they're never going to change, by the way. But personal, sit down every day, do a self-reflection of your work, do a self-reflection of the environment that you're working in. I think that will save you a lot in the long run. It will save you a lot.
Well, thank you so much for the advice. I hope that journalists out there and upcoming young journalists in universities, I hope this conversation from Linda has been helpful. I hope you've learned something. Here at Ukweli Africa, we emphasize safety. So I urge you to always remember when you're going out to the field that no story is worth your life. No safety, no story. There is no need for you to die in the line of fire, because the moment you are away, you are going to be replaced with another journalist doing the same thing that you are doing. Think about yourself before any other thing. Again, no safety, no story. My name is Laura Nalugwa, and thank you for joining us today.